Physique.
What's up, guys? I am here with Chris Algieri, professional boxer, author, and nutritionist. Chris, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great. Got my morning workout in, and I have breakfast in a little bit. So life is good right now.
Awesome, man. I know you're a lot like me, man. So typical day starts off breakfast, workout, and then pretty much, everything revolves around your meals and your training, huh?
1,000%. Every day, like you said, it's wake up, it's eat to get ready to train, recover from training, train again, and then to worry about what dinner is and getting to bed at the right time.
So you're doing 2-a-day training sessions?
Yeah, for the most part now, especially because, I'm right here. I like we're Long Island guys, right? Like growing up in Long Island, I got to drive around a lot. Now I don't have to. I literally go on my patio and work out, or I go run the street. So I find that I have more time to recover. So it's easier for me to get the 2-a-days in, which I'm used to during camp anyway. And my training sessions now aren't as intense, so I don't require as much recovery. So I've been averaging 2-a-days most days during the week.
Dude, let me tell you, bro, you got a great physique for a boxer, man. Incredible, man. But a lot of boxers, they had that really good physique that could do well even on a bodybuilding stage. Remember Evander Holyfield, how crazy this guy looked, man? I mean, Evander looks sick. Even Mike Tyson was super jacked.
Dude, with his waist was like this. Yeah. I mean, except there's power involved too. So it truly is a power endurance sport. So there's tons of cardio. Make sure you stay nice and lean. It's a weight restricted sport. So obviously you've got to like cut weight or get your weight down, reduce your weight. But at the same time, you still have to be powerful and strong and explosive. And that's why you get those nice rounded muscles and lean physiques.
So what were they doing? Like, what do you do in terms of weight training? Do you focus more on pad work, or do you focus on weight training maybe a couple times a week? How do you separate the two?
Really, it depends on the phase of training camp. We use periods. I train with a lot of great strength and conditioning coach, one of which you know very well, Dr. Mike Camp, who I'm sure will be listening in to this episode.
Mike Camp is the GOAT, bro.
He really is. And really, I mean, I think I might have been the first boxer that I ever worked with, and I've done countless camps with him. And he's so smart and about periodization. So we're far out from camp. We're lifting heavier. I have two sessions a week, and they're pretty much full body sessions each day. But one day's more focused on legs, one day's more focused on upper body. And we're working on getting strong. We're working on building. We call it armor, right? Because we gotta get hit. Yeah. So you gotta build up muscle hypertrophy to build up that armor, so your body is able to take the blows. And then as we get closer to camp, throughout camp and closer to fight time, we worry more about muscular endurance in the middle phases. And then at the very end, it's explosion, power, and cutting down. Getting your weight down. So it's like we treat our bodies like a high performance vehicle. Lots of horsepower, very low weight.
Yeah, dude, I say the same thing all the time, man. I treat my body like a Ferrari. I don't have a Ferrari, but if I did, I'm putting a 93 octane, not 87.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my take on my physique. But I also notice how I feel when I'm eating right. Like my mental clarity, my mood, my focus. I think there's a certain level of depression when you're eating pizza every single day. You feel sluggish. Your skin isn't as well. Do you ever notice that? Like, do you feel that way as well?
Absolutely. And I think I've noticed more and more, especially as I've aged. I'm 36 now. My 36-year-old self is different than my 26-year-old self. Even though I'm still competing at the high level, is I think that food affects me and affects my sleep a lot. So if I don't eat the right foods during the day, I'll be sluggish during the day, and at night my energy levels are off, my mind is off, and I don't get that restful sleep that I need in order to recover like I feel when I eat properly throughout the day.
So let me ask you this, man. The day of the fight, what is your go-to meal? Like, are you so nervous? I'd be so nervous if I had to go into a ring and fight somebody, especially like when you fought Manny Pacquiao. Like, I'm sure you flew to China. You're in a different time zone. You're probably not sleeping well. Like nerves. Like, are you even able to eat?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, and I've worked with other athletes myself. Me personally, though, I love to fight. I like fight day. I like fight week. I'm really nervous at the beginning of camp because it's like, oh man, I'm fighting this guy. He's really tough. I need to get in shape. But by the time fight time comes, man, I'm in such good shape and I'm so focused on what that is. I just want to get in there and go to work. But in terms of the diet, dude, it's just carbs all day, carbs and hydration. I normally have like a large breakfast, which is pretty normal, a normal breakfast of, oats and eggs and fruit and juice, a lot of hydration. And then recently, just kind of from working out with my own body, figuring out what my best carbs, I found that white rice works best for me. Fight day and leading up to those last couple of days, even my sparring sessions, my body, I don't feel any kind of inflammation when I have white rice, or sometimes I feel sluggish when I eat other foods.
Dude, that's awesome, dude. I remember, I'm a big fan of the UFC, so I was watching a George St. Pierre interview, and he says, he eats chicken Alfredo before he fights, and I'm like, holy crap, dude. If I were to eat that,
no way,
get punched in the stomach or something, oh, dude, forget about it, bro.
I've seen guys eat pizza, walk into the arena and then go and fight their asses off and have great conditioning. Everyone's different. I'm like you. I could never do that. I would. Yeah. I'd lose it.
Well, that's crazy, man. I just know how it makes me feel. But how'd you get into boxing, man? Did you see a Rocky movie at a young age? Were you very impressionable? What happened?
So my mother was born in Argentina, and in Argentina there's football, soccer, and boxing. Those are the sports. And I live with my grandfather, my grandmother, who were also from Argentina. And I spent a ton of time with my grandfather. He was home, he was retired. And whenever there was fights on TV, it was Tuesday night fights on ESPN or Friday night fights on ESPN or HBO Championship Boxing or Showtime, whatever. We watched every fight. He loved Mike Tyson. He loved Oscar De La Hoya. He loved Roy Jones Jr. So I can vividly remember sitting on his lap, watching fights and him being like, these guys are animals in the best way, animales. He's talked about them nonstop, about how great they are and how tough they are and how smart they are and how strong they are, blah, blah, blah. But then he go to me, he goes, you're too smart. They're animals. You're going to be a doctor. You don't need to do that. Because he would see my face and be like, yeah, this is exciting. But it didn't work out in his favor for that. But
yeah, no, right. You kind of did a little mix of both, with your background in clinical nutrition. So you did both, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I think most people that grow up with aspirations, especially guys, I think in our head, maybe every day, I have this fake fight scenario in my head that never actually materializes. But it's pretty cool, man. It's very cool, especially because you're a Long Island guy. But dude, when's your next fight?
Well, I was scheduled to fight at the Barclays Center in May, but obviously with COVID and everything that's going on, everything is off. There's no sporting events. Boxing, honestly, I would imagine June when things would kind of start back up, hopefully. So it's really, everything's just up in the air right now. So I'm just trying to stay ready whenever the ban gets lifted and we can fight. It's time to fight.
Dude, that's sick, bro. Awesome, dude. I can't wait, man. I was speaking to Mike about you, and Mike was like, man, he's so damn tough that no one wants to take a fight with him.
It's tough, man. I looked really good in my last fight, and now it's really hard to get a fight.
Yeah. Well, you got some really brutal pictures out there, bro. Some pictures from after the fight, your eyes will be all swollen, dude. Oh, man. How is that, man?
Every fight's tough. And I say that all the time. There's no easy fights. Every fight's a fight. Every guy that you fight, especially, at this level, they're all professional killers. This is what these guys train to do. They literally have two weapons and they train them to do as much damage to their opponent as possible. So there's no easy fights. I have respect for everybody who steps in the ring. And there's a lot that I think the public doesn't see after fights. When we go to the hospital, most times, when fights are tough, and people think, well, we just go home to our families. Nah, we go and get our brains checked, and we get our hands casted because they're broken, and we get our jaws x-rayed, and all these different things, and the nose breaks, and eye swelling, and any mark that you have on your face in the ring, the next day is multiplied by 10 times. It's just everything. The blood starts to move, the swelling comes out. So every fighter has those pictures where they look all jammed up the next day that they usually hide from the public. But, I've been kind of showing everybody what it's really like out there.
Yeah, damn, dude. No, I appreciate that transparency, man. I mean, there was a few deaths recently in boxing. I think, I think it was last year. There was a New York boxer that died from a concussion. I think
Patrick Day. Patrick Day died. He was from Freeport, Long Island. He actually a friend of mine. I've known him since he was 17 years old. Used to spar with him a lot when he was in the amateurs, and really, really sad. He had a fight in Chicago. I think it was September or October. Just horrible situation. It was hit so close to home. You know, there was three major deaths last year. Maxim Darashev was another one. He died, I think, in July on an ESPN live event. And, you know, just a young, undefeated guy. Young, 28, 29 years old. These guys are undefeated with huge potential for their careers and for their families. And just to be taken away like that, it's tragic. No other word for it.
That's horrible. Is it that we're hearing about it more because social media is more prevalent, or has this been going on for, decades?
Fighters die every year around the world, boxers especially. And it's a very dangerous sport, and we all know that risk, and that is part of it. But it seems to be happening more in young guys recently, which was never really the case. It was usually the older guys, guys at lighter weights, guys who cut a lot of weight. Now you're seeing guys in the middle weights. You're seeing guys who are young. You're seeing guys that are at a very high level who are succumbing to these injuries in the ring and either dying or being permanently injured. And that's been a new trend, which I'm not sure how to put a finger on why that's the case.
Damn, dude, that's crazy. I know there's that debate about the MMA gloves versus the boxing gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which one does it hurt more to get punched with, a boxing glove or MMA glove?
So pain is one thing. Like a lot of like you're even seeing like they got the bare knuckle boxing now.
That's crazy.
And yeah, that's insane.
That's brutal.
Dude, knuckles and bones, they're like, you can see these, they're like knives, and they cut these guys open and they split open immediately. But if there's more facial damage, right? And actually, like you said, which hurts more? There's more pain, physical pain when you get damage to like your face. But in terms of, concussive force and where guys get knocked out and where guys get brain injury it's worse with a bigger glove, because it disperses the impact and causes more of that concussive force. So a concussion is when your brain moves within the skull, within the cerebrospinal fluid, and crashes against the skull, right? So it could be the front, could be the back, could be the side, whatever. So you get that in car accidents too, because you get that deceleration, right? And the brain moves forward and bangs in front of the skull. That's what happens when a punch clips you on the chin. Boom, your head spins, you get that swivel, your brain swishes around within the cerebrospinal fluid, and then naturally crashes into whatever is around, which generally is the inside of your skull. And that's what causes a concussion. That's generally what causes knockouts. But me getting punched in my eye and breaking my orbital or breaking my nose or knocking a tooth out hurts, but it's not doing that inner damage to the soft tissue of the brain or the brain stem.
Have you broken an orbital bone?
I have. Yeah, I always forget which one it is. I broke this one.
Bro, man, hats off to you, man. That is crazy, man. Imagine having to go to work every day, but you love it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
There's been a few recent deaths in bodybuilding as well. And people close to those particular bodybuilders, they've told me, like, man, I don't want the same fate as so-and-so, or I think twice about what we're doing to their bodies. So I think it's occupational hazard, but when you love what you do, you don't think about that. That's the last thing on your mind.
Yep.
Because passion takes over. Passion will always overcome fear. I guess it's the same as a professional race car driver when they're going 200 miles per hour in a circle like this. They don't even realize it's second nature, So, in fact, it's actually like the same thing. I went skydiving before, and I was scared shitless. And then as I was falling out of the plane, I was like, damn, I thought I would fall faster. This isn't nearly fast enough. So I tell people, like, yo, you don't even fall that fast. It's not that scary, So,
oh, dude, you got some balls, because you're way too big to be jumping out of a plane.
Well, that place shut down, man. They had a death there like the previous month. Like the next, they had death. I think it was like skydive, like 516 or something. But
oh wow, that's scary.
Easy, dude. But dude, man, you're very intelligent, man. In fact, I had to pick up your book. So as soon as I saw you post this, and bro, let me tell you how well this is. Like, it's just so well written, and the imagery and the photos, like, it makes you want to eat healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It has all the macro breakdowns and stuff, man.
Yep. Bro, I appreciate the support so much. I put so much into this, bro.
Tell me, what's the process? If I want to write a book, what's the process?
So actually, the publishers reached out to me. It was Random Penguin House. They sent me an email like 2 summers ago. But I had been working on the book anyway. So they emailed me like, hey, we got this idea for this book. Would you be interested? And I said, not only am I interested, I'm 6 months into this, or really I was a couple of years into it, but I was really starting to put some real work into it. They're like, great, send over what you got and let's get to it. Once we went through all like the contract process and figuring out how this was going to, to work legally, I had due dates. I had deadlines, just like a writer. I had deadlines where I had to have a certain percentage of the recipes in and completed, and then I would get paid. And it was, as an upfront, and kind of worked that way, throughout. But I mean, I had to name each recipe, list all the ingredients, list how to do it step by step, and then I had to practice, right, make sure that it made sense. Send that into them. They have testers who tested the recipe, and then they would come back with questions and be like, hey, this didn't work, or this would be better like this. What do you think about this? And it was a constant go back and forth between the testers and myself. Then there was a photographer who had to contact me. Like, this is what this came out like. Is that what it should look like? No, it's got to be like that. It's got to be like this. Constant back and forth for, I guess that was August until December. So it was a tremendous amount of work. And literally every moment that I wasn't in gloves or sweating, I was on my computer in the kitchen, writing things down, making notes, reviewing emails. So much work. I was humbled by the experience, truly.
Dude, this is awesome. It came out so well, man. So this is the Fighter's Kitchen, guys. So if you guys are curious about how to cut weight, how to get in shape, how to perform better, even like no matter what you are, if you're a fighter or not, even if you're, even the book, it states, even if you're an attorney, you can perform better. If you are a teacher, you can perform better. It's so true. Me, I have a tendency, like I've been growing up with depression. So I notice when I don't eat well, I tend to be a little bit fall into that depression. But when I eat well, I just feel like energized. Like it's amazing. So this is totally dope, man.
So true. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And it's really like, it wasn't made for fighters. It's called the Fighter's Kitchen. It's kind of a misnomer. It's for people who are health conscious, people who work out, people who, like you said, want to feel better. The food is meant to be, for one, ingredients wise, easy to find. It's things you can find in any grocery store. And two, I'm not a chef. I like to cook. So nothing in there is difficult. Everybody can do any of the recipes that are in there. And like you said, they did such a great job putting it together. It came together in a way I'm very, very happy and proud of. It's very easy to read. It's got all the information right there. So simple. It's worth it. It was a good. It came out really well, like you said.
So let me ask you a question.
Yep.
I know that you used to wrestle in high school. So when you were cutting weight in high school, how was your process in high school compared to when you're cutting weight now when you're preparing for a professional fight?
Bro, high school was a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Wrestling in high school was an absolute nightmare. The entire season leading up, it was anxiety leading up to the season. It was dehydration, low calorie the entire season, and then afterwards binge eating and feeling like dog shit. That was my entire high school career. So I always look back and I said, man, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have been a national champion. I was a talented guy, but I was late to the sport. I didn't wrestle till my first year was my freshman year. I ended up making it to the public states, went to the semifinals, even with that little experience. But I was so undersized and underfueled by the time I got up there. I couldn't deal with the guys. They were super talented and just bigger and stronger and faster. So I was like, what is this? Who are these guys? And I just realized that's the only thing, that they knew how to eat and train better. And that was why I fell in love with nutrition. From there, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. I know I'm going to be a professional kickboxer. I chose, instead of going to school to wrestle, I chose to be a professional kickboxer in college. And I knew I was going to fight. I knew I was going to have to make weight. I had been making weight for a number of years. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So me being a science mind, I just delved right into whatever I could find. The research, books. This is back in library days before Google, and really just trying to read whatever I could on sports nutrition and performance. And I was a sponge, soaking it all up, because I knew there had to be a better way than what I was doing on myself in high school.
Dude, that's awesome, man. No, but you're so right, man. People that crash diet. So that sounds like pretty much a crash diet, and then which leads to binge eating, which is an unhealthy relationship with food.
Yes.
So that's similar to, a lot of my clients that I help them get in shape. Like, hey, this is a lot of calories. Are you sure I should be eating this much calories to get shredded? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you can't
Yes.
starve yourself. The body needs food, especially when you're trying to gain muscle and perform.
Right.
Because the more you fuel your body, the better you can perform in a gym. And we know how important the training is. No
Mm-hmm.
matter whether you're hitting the mitts or you're weight training for a bodybuilding show, like you need to be fueled up. But I think there's this misconception to lose weight. People think that they need to starve themselves, and that is furthest from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not performing well, what's the point?
Yep.
We're not trying to
Yep.
look good and not be able to perform. So yeah, man, that's really cool. I know a couple of guys who had similar stories. Like I'm good friends with John Jones. So he
Mm-hmm.
told me like when he used to be in high school wrestling, he didn't know what the hell he was doing. Snicker bars, Gatorades, and
Yep.
all this crap. And now things are different for him for sure. But let's talk about some different styles of
Mm-hmm.
nutrition or dieting, because
Yep.
there's so many things out there these days. There's that carnivore diet,
Mm-hmm.
intermittent fasting, there is keto, there's carb cycling.
Yep.
Now, let me hear your thoughts on these
Mm-hmm.
different styles. Not to bash or say one's better or the other, because I don't think that there is one that's better.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts when it comes to just diets as a whole?
I agree. Like I'm not here to bash anybody. I don't think there's any perfect human diet. Food is food, and what you choose to be, food, what works for you is fine, as long as you make it work for you. But yeah, I mean, there's so many dietary approaches out now, and a lot of them are kind of fatty, and some of them have been around for a long time. Some people have really great success. One, for example, like intermittent fasting, I think I actually recommend to a lot of clients myself because it just works with the modern schedule, right? Taking a meal or eating window away, and because most people are busy during the day anyway, so I think it works schedule wise for a lot of people. But also having that ability to have your gut rest, right? So you're not always constantly putting food, you're not always pumping insulin up. I think there's a lot of benefit to that as well. So intermittent fasting is one that I like. I don't like it for my athletes. I don't like it for myself. I train too often to have those gaps in energy. But I think for normal people or day-to-day people, or even weekend warriors, people who train, once a day or every other day, I think it's a really good option. Carnivore, I haven't tried. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry.
most people only eat once a day anyways. I mean,
True. Right. Yeah. That's a good point.
yeah, until I was like 22 or 23 years old, like I was eating once a day almost my whole life. Never having breakfast, Even a lot of the family does that because they're just so busy. Oh, I don't have time to eat, which is the furthest thing from the truth. You don't have time to eat, and people wonder why their metabolism is so slow. I think
It's true.
you need to consume like frequent meals. But
Especially if you're training, if you have a high volume, a high training volume, it's impossible for you to not eat often and to have constant. I mean, you got to spike that insulin over and over again. When you're training, though, that's a whole different thing than people who are looking for like longevity or are looking to extend their life or later in their lives when training isn't the most important thing. When you're training, you got to eat, you got to fuel, like you said. Otherwise, you don't need to eat as much, and that's why I find that intermittent fasting for people is really, really helpful.
Yeah. So how do you how do you approach this? If a client comes up to you, whether he's a performance athlete or not, how do you pinpoint the right diet for the right individual?
I base it off one is their goals, right? Their ultimate goals, what they think their goals are, because when they tell me what their goals are, I might not agree with them, and that's fine, but that's what you want to do. But I might try and kind of finesse that a little bit. So whatever they think their goals are, and then their schedule, based on what their training window abilities are, what their daily schedule is like, what their access to food is like. And that's really kind of where we'll go into, what style of eating would be best for them. And then also what people come in with their preconceived notions. Like, I want to do, carnivore, or I'm going to be vegan, 5 days a week, or, what? Okay, then that's what you want to do. You're the client, then let's do it.
Yeah.
Let me just figure it out based on, like those things, basically, schedule and goals.
Let's talk about the mental preparation, man, because I've been privileged to have a lot of friends that are professional athletes, whether it's NFL or, boxing like yourself or MMA. What is the mental approach knowing that you're preparing? First of all, how long do you prepare for a fight? And then what is the approach leading into the fight? Is there fear? Is there anxiety? Is your confidence so high and you've done all the work and you know that you're certain about the outcome? Like, what is it?
Yes to all of those. Is there anxiety? Yes. Are you scared? Yes. Do you feel ultimately confident? Yes. Do you still understand that you can lose? Yes. Do you understand that you can get hurt? Yes. Are you worried about that? Yes. So it's all of the above. It's such a mental warfare throughout the various phases of camp. And to your question about how long, ideally 3 months. That's what I think is ideally the training camp. 12 weeks would be ideal. But a lot of times we only normally get about 8 weeks, which is fine because I think you should be living life in those other 4 weeks anyway. So that first phase of camp, that's life. I'm a professional athlete. I train year round. Okay. So I want to be within the ability and fitness level to step into training camp on a call. You call me and say, all right, we're fighting in 8 weeks. Boom. Cool. I'm in camp. I'm good to go. I've actually chosen to be even closer. I like to be like 4 to 6 weeks out from fight time at all times, just so I can jump in there and be ready and be confident in myself. But the mental training is a huge, huge aspect and something that I think has helped me in my career, even back to my kickboxing days. I was a two division world champion in kickboxing. My first world title I had at 21 years old. But I knew that the mental side of it was so important. Because back then, like, I was young and dumb and I just wanted to fight, and the bell would ring and I would go meet you in your corner and we would fight and we would just throw hands and kicks until somebody hit the ground, and they get up and not, whatever. I didn't care. I used to get dropped all the time because I was reckless. I would just fight. And I knew that wasn't sustainable. And my boxing has been much, much more cerebral since then, because I've also learned how dangerous these guys are. But that's where the mental aspect became so important, where I had to be ready for all situations, be ready for any outcome. And I think all my experience in kickboxing really helped me in boxing because of that, because things go wrong on show day, on fight night, on game day, whatever. Things always go wrong. Champions find ways to win. And when your mind is clear, when the outcome that you have in your mind has been seen over and over and over, and like a hamster wheel in your brain, using visualization to see yourself with getting your hand raised, see yourself landing that one shot that you need to get yourself out of trouble. I've had so many dreams about getting hit and rocked and then fighting through that unconsciously, just thinking about, okay, I see his feet, everything's kind of shaky, I can't get hit again, so replaying those kind of things in my mind. So when the unexpected happens, I'm ready for it. I've been there, at least here. So I think that's where visualization, meditation, taking time to look within yourself becomes vitally, vitally important, and is a huge part of success.
Yeah. I just in terms of bodybuilding, a lot of guys, they go on stage confident because they know that they didn't miss a meal. They know they didn't miss a training session. They know, it's a certain level of certainty of knowing what you have to do. All right, I got to do my pad work. I got to do my conditioning. I got to do my, my recovery. So, going into the fight, like, all right, I'm ready for every possible outcome. The same way as a bodybuilding show, ready for every outcome. But there's also a double-edged sword. Me, for instance, when I've been so perfect and so OCD and on top and regimented, and the outcome isn't my, if I play second or third, then, there's also this like, damn, I visualized this for so long. And now, I'm in a shower in a hotel room crying, and, it's
what happened? What happened? I did everything right.
And we're supposed to celebrate my family, but now everyone's patting me on the shoulder and saying it's okay, So, have you ever dealt with anything like that?
Of course. I mean, I was undefeated world champion, and I'm flying to China to fight Manny Pacquiao, a living legend. And I had no question in my mind. I was winning that fight. And I didn't read all this, and just looking back in hindsight, I didn't read all the signs leading up to what was going to happen and what ended up happening. That was written. What happened that night was going to happen, because I now that I look back on everything that happened through camp, I had my blinders on to so many things where I was just focused on, this is what's going to happen. This is what's I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it's going to work out. I missed steps, or parts around me weren't landing in the way they should have. But I was so focused and pushing through that this was the way it was going to be. Spending the 2 weeks or the 11 days that I was in Macau in China leading up to the fight were absolutely horrible. It was the worst fight week of my life, but it didn't matter. I was so tuned in, so dialed in. I'm like, this is what it's going to be. So, and then obviously the fight happens the way it did. I get knocked down a bunch of times. I lose. I see the final bell. I am so upset. I'm beside myself because there was nothing in my mind that told me that could have happened. And same thing, coming home and people are supposed to be so excited and so amazed, whatever, we're going to come celebrate, new 2-time world champion. And it's like, hey bud, you did good, man. Fist bump, and I remember being at an award ceremony, and I got Fighter of the Year for this New York-based organization. And I'm up there, and Daniel Jacobs, now 2-time middleweight world champion, a good friend of mine and someone that I've worked with as a nutritionist and a coach. He's getting the award of comeback of the year that year. So I'm up there, and he can see it on my face, on my energy, and he goes, "Hey man, don't be upset. You got the most important award here." Like being like, dude, like it's cool. It's okay. Like, yeah, you coming off a loss, like you're hurt, but listen, you did something amazing, and now you're up here with a statue of the Fighter of the Year, and you got a puss on your face, like buck up, dude, kind of thing. I was just like, man, I'm like, yeah, that helped me put things in perspective when you have a peer and someone around you, someone you respect, who can just be like, hey man, it happens. This is what it is. You get up and you get back on the horse and you keep working.
Yeah, dude, that's so right, man. It's important to have good friends around you to cheer you up during those moments. But yeah, I think it's just when you aspire to be the best in the world, no matter what it is, whether it's boxing or kickboxing or bodybuilding or whatever you aspire to be,
whatever it is,
be those kind of shortcomings. Because if you weren't disappointed at the outcome, it means it didn't mean a lot to you to begin with.
Yeah.
So the fact that you are disappointed after, like me, I know, man. If I go to a supermarket, I'm like, damn, I can't. This old lady knows I got second.
This old lady knows.
And
she knows I lost,
bro. Nobody knows. Like I feel embarrassed. Like when I go to the gym, hey, how are you? I put my head down. I run away. I don't want to be seen by anybody. I think it's because, like I said, people like us, when we're trying to be the best, we put so much weight on this one thing.
Yep. And
to be quite honest, like being a bodybuilder doesn't define me. That's one aspect of my being. There's many other aspects to, my book is 10 pages. That's one page, So,
right.
I think we put so much weight because, like you said, for 3 months, you're meticulous. Everything's perfect. Everything's regimented. You have your blinders on. And I think that's like a double-edged sword. You have to get to that level. You have to get to that zone to perform at that level. But then when the outcome isn't what you desire, there can only be one winner, man. And
that's, I think that's a good way to kind of end it. It's like there can be only one winner. And we all understand that. That's what's on the line. It's like, I'm going to go up and you're going down. Like, and we only see the up. We don't anticipate the down. And I think, especially that first time, that you really expect to be, or you're expected to win and then you don't, that can really change you as a person and change you as an athlete. And I think that's where you see a lot of guys have that crossroad in their careers. It's like, all right, am I going to just drift off into the nether regions, or am I going to, take that trajectory back up, take my bump now and go back up and keep going. And I think a lot of that has to do with what happens here. And also you alluded to, like, the people around you, whether it's your close friends or your family or your training partners or your trainers. I think it's really important to have the right people around you that can, one, tell you the truth and not just kiss your ass. But also two, like, be there and support you, whether they're saying something negative or positive, it's got to ultimately come from a place of support.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. You can't have yes men around you. Oh, man, the judges. Oh, man, this and that. So you can't have yes men. You're totally right. But this is something that's not talked about is, and you're right, we never focus on the other outcome. We never focus on that. But how else do you stay grounded besides having a good family base and good friends around you? Do you have any kind of escape, whether it's reading or, any kind of hobbies that help you during, the preparations to your fight?
Yeah. So I'm actually really productive during camp because I think even more so than when I'm out of camp, like we talk about recovery so much. Recovery is so important, especially during training camp, because I'm sparring a lot. And sparring is like, I'm literally fighting with heavier, bigger padded gloves and more padding on, but like, it's a fight, you're doing that multiple times a week. So it's really important to recover properly. And I always talk about spending a lot of time horizontal. So you're laying down, you're watching Netflix or whatever, but I spend a lot of time on my computer working at that time. I think for me to put my mind someplace else is really beneficial for my overall recovery and my feelings of being productive. And like you talked about mental stuff too. When you have a positive mindset, your body recovers that much better. It responds better to what you're doing. So a lot of times that, whenever I have my downtime, I'm always working on some kind of projects, whether it be nutrition. I do a lot of speaking engagements outside of boxing. I do nutrition talks at medical conferences, nutrition conferences, performance conferences. So I think that really keeps me grounded because I'm around so many smart people where I'm just like, wow, I'm smart in the gym, but like, I'm not smart in this arena, so it always causes me to make sure that I know I'm checked. I'm like, all right, I'm not the man everywhere. So I got to understand that there are people here that I can learn from. And there's a long way to go. So that's always helped me stay grounded by kind of being able to shift gears and then jump into another lane and try and race those badasses,
Yeah. No, that's great, man. I always say it's the white belt mentality to be
I like that.
something new and to be able to be vulnerable enough to suck at it in front of people. Because I think people never chase their dreams or their ambitions or their hobbies because they don't want to appear to be, sucking at whatever they do because, oh no, so-and-so is watching, or I don't want people to make fun of me, or, I'm too old, or I'm not, I don't have the time, or, so I don't have the genetics. There's so many excuses people give themselves. So it's kind of crazy. Let's switch gears a little bit. What do you think about all the talks of MMA fighters wanting to cross over into boxing and boxing want to cross over into MMA? And what do you think about that whole thing? Because I know there's an obvious difference in speed.
Yeah.
I've been through a few boxing fights, and their hand speed is incredible. It is so fast. It's like it's night and day from my perspective. But I'm a guy.
I mean, I think at the higher levels, like guys like McGregor who are chasing after Mayweather's, like that's a money grab, right? Yeah, it makes sense for them. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get beat up, and you're going to make so much money that it's life changing for generations. So that's one thing. But then, some of the other guys who may be calling out, I just don't think it's going to happen because there's no reason for promoters to put up the kind of money that would make it worth it. But yeah, I mean, and I think maybe boxers who are talking about going that way, which I don't hear a lot of those do that because dealing with kicks and the ground stuff is a whole different world. If you've never been kicked in your leg.
Well, they got the Gypsy King. Gypsy King wants to do UFC, he said.
He should just do WWE. Okay? He's got the personality. He's got the size. And they make money, bro.
He's a cool dude, man. From the interviews I've seen, he seems like a really cool guy, man.
I called his fight when he fought Otto Wallin back in September in Las Vegas, and he was in the fighter meeting. Before when you commentate on a fight, there's something called a fighter meeting, and the fighters come in, and the whole broadcast team is on the other side of a big long table, and you get to interview the fighters and their teams. Very, very cool experience. I've done both, obviously, but being on either side is a very, very cool experience. So I've had the opportunity to be in the room and to interview with a group. Tyson Fury. And man, let me tell you, I became a fan instantly. This guy came in the room. His energy is on 12. Like he is just on, and he's a very nice guy. He is funny. He is humble. He was talking about all his depression and his battles through everything and what he is now compared to what he was then. And he understands who and what he is. I was blown away by this guy. And I wish him all the best. I'm really happy to see all the success that he's been able to achieve and will achieve past this.
Yeah, he's got some really cool suits, bro. He wears these.
He's a character. He's a character.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So, Chris, that's all I have for you today. I don't want to keep us too long over here, man. But how can my viewers find you? How could they reach out to you?
One, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for this time. This was a lot of fun. We got to do it again sometime. But yeah, just my Instagram is probably the easiest way. It's just Chris Algieri. If you can spell my name, it's just Chris Algieri across. That's my same thing with my Twitter, chrisalgieri.com. My email is chris@chrisalgieri.com. So very easy to find me.
And how can they pick up your book, bro?
It's in Barnes and Nobles. It can be ordered on Amazon, so you don't have to go out and outside anymore. And I think I even had like Target and stuff. So Amazon.com is probably your easiest way.
I got mine on Amazon. Yeah. So awesome, Chris. Thank you so much, bro. I'll see you back in Long Island soon.
Sounds good, brother. Stay well, all right?
Thanks for your time, man.